Okay, call this meeting open at 5:03. Ms. Ellinger, are there any speakers wishing to address the board?
President Bruno, there is not.
All right, we're going to close at 5:03 to close session, returning at 6:15. All right, we are reconvening from close. It's 6:19. We have a guest. He's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Scout Darren Tang. We all join us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. That was strong. Thank you, Darren. There's no report from close. We're going to start with item 7, approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
There have been no changes.
We have a motion to approve the agenda, consent agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda.
Second.
You? Any opposed? Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And there are no abstentions. The agenda is approved. Item number 8, speakers wishing to address the board. The board appreciates and supports stakeholder input at our meetings. Engagement by members of the public in civic matters is a cornerstone of our democracy. The board has established guidelines for its meetings so that we're able to conduct the meeting effectively and efficiently. Within these guidelines, members of the public have the ability to address the board. To submit a question or comment, speakers are asked to complete the speaker card by the start of the open session at 6:15. If you have not already done so, you may see Ms. Ellinger for a speaker card at this time. During the meeting, speakers will be called upon to make their comment. If you're addressing the board on an agenda item, we will call on you to provide your comment before the board discusses that item on the agenda. If you're addressing the board on a non-agenda item, we will take those comments at this time. Please be aware that the provisions of the Brown Act prohibit the board from acting on or discussing non-agenda item matters at this meeting. Public comment are limited to 3 minutes per person per topic. There'll be a timer on the screen. I'll be gentle if I have to cut you off. Ms. Ellinger, are there any speakers wishing to address the board?
President Bruno, we have one speaker, Lynn McVeigh, Vice President from BRSFA.
Yay.
Come on up.
Hello.
Nice to see you. My name is Lynn McVeigh, and I'm the Vice President of the BRSFA. It's my first year, part of the Executive Board. I currently teach at Ralston Middle School. I'm a 6th grade English teacher, and I teach 6th and 7th grade study skills this year. In the past, I've also taught 7th and 8th grade remedial English, and I was the ELD teacher for 6th to 8th grade for 5 years. In the district, I was a reading specialist with Ching Pei for a long while, and on the safety committee and sunshine committee, which is always a lot of fun, of course. So I'm honored to speak here at the board meeting for the first time in this role. As you may know, each time our union speaks at these meetings, we share a glow and grow, the things going well and the places we hope to improve together. In the past, we've talked about professional development as part of our process, and tonight I'd like to continue that conversation. I've been working closely with Ching Pei to support and strengthen the collaboration between the district and the union around our January professional development. It has truly been encouraging to see how open and consistent our communication has become. We've been building trust, listening to each other, and focusing on the shared goal of improving teaching and learning. Once again this year, each side had the chance to work directly with its principal and teachers to decide what will be offered in January. From everything I've seen, sites have collaborated thoughtfully and created sessions that will genuinely interest and support staff. That level of ownership and partnership is exactly what makes the PDs, the professional developments, meaningful. So we hope to continue growing our PD days so they're not just time on the calendar, but impactful learning experiences that teachers truly feel support them in their classroom practice. Because at the end of the day, our shared goal, district and union alike, is always what is best for our students. Thank you.
And there are no more speakers.
Item 9, the Board of Trustees report. Anyone like to get us started?
Yes, I'll go first. Thank you, President Bruno. So the majority of the board attended CSBA's annual conference last week in Sacramento. And so I just wanted to share kind of the, I don't know, a couple of highlights from that trip. Really, I think one of the best parts, obviously, we go to hear in-depth conversation about many different topics. And so there were several sessions that I found very interesting and kind of just reminded me of like why I wanted to be on the school board in the first place, and gave me a lot of things to do more research on and look into on my own. So I'm excited to get into some of those things. I took several notes that I will be referring back to. But I also think that one of the best parts of going to the conference is just to have that time with other people who are on school boards, maybe not our school board, although that time was also great. But to see other people from other communities that are also on the school board and getting a chance to connect with them as well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Like Anne, I participated in the CSBA conference. And honestly, the conference was very thought-provoking and offered a lot of valuable perspectives from administrators, superintendents, teachers, educational lawyers, policymakers, and hearing directly from those individuals working across the educational landscape really reinforced the complexity of all the decisions that we make and the impact that it has upon our community. And really the importance of the thoughtful and informed and informed governance overall. I look forward to bringing all of these newly found insights into our board work. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
I would just add, echo my colleagues and just also thank the district for the opportunity to have professional development in this way to help us advance our governance skills and just be supportive of us growing as trustees and as individuals as we tackle policy issues, the advancement of AI, and other areas that we want to learn. But the one impression that I came away with was the overall theme of trust and commitment. And I think all these issues we're saying, whether it was a special ed workshop or something around loneliness and the effect of social media on children and how loneliness is increased, it's the trust and commitment that when you have two parties or two different thoughts, whether it's, again, teachers and administrators or just parents and everything, that we're a community and ultimately we work through this through our trust of each other and building the bonds of commitment. And I think if you have those as central pieces, you can kind of work through and avoid any misunderstandings or just work through like more of a bipartisan, I guess, approach or a balanced approach to thought and dialogue. So I think I agree that those are the the bedrock of what we need and what we have here. But I also encourage us just always to think about it, like how to facilitate more of that trust and commitment. So that was my takeaway. Thank you.
Not much to report. I was able to attend the winter concert at Ralston last night. So congratulations and thanks to the music teachers at Ralston, and congratulations and thanks to all the students who performed in orchestra, band, and choir. And yeah, just looking forward to a well-resting vacation. And having the microphones is still something to get used to. But anyway, yeah, and I want to make sure that I reserve some time to recognize outgoing President Bruno when we do our reorganization.
Thank you. First off, shout out to our tech team. These microphones are awesome. Um, I don't have much. I was also at the conference. I will say I'm looking forward to also hopefully kind of restful breaks and celebration for everybody, administrators, teachers, board members. I had a lot of fun at the conference with you all, and so I'm in appreciation of that. Lots of things to celebrate coming up. Just want to shout those out. So kind of, Christmas, I think Hanukkah is coming up pretty soon this week. Yeah. Um, New Year's, solstice, Poinsettia Day, Boxing Day. Yeah, it's a thing. Look it up. Google it, Siri. Also, take some time this weekend and head outside at night and check out the Geminid meteor showers. Just gonna throw that out there. And then also shout out to people who are powering through the cold and still walking to school. That was pretty cool this morning. There still is a pretty good crowd out there while we were all just looking at our breath. That's my report. Item number 10, superintendent report.
Good evening, board. So like most of you, I spent my week at CSBA last week, and I'll just say the takeaway for me is always how a conference like AAC helps our governance team connect. And it's really that connection that happens there at CSBA. And a little bit selfish, you get to see a little view into other school boards and other districts. And when I get that view, oftentimes I'm feel really good about the work that we're doing, the collaboration that is happening here at the dais, the unity that happens not only amongst our board, but across our district. And the end result is great things for kids. And I truly believe we're doing good things for kids. So thank you for your commitment and your time. And I look forward to next year's CSBA as well.
Thank you, Superintendent Duquara. You can stay off mute. Item number 11, middle school alignment survey.
Great. Perfect. I think I can see it from here. My eyes are definitely starting to catch up for me. So I will also look at it on my computer as I go along. Good evening, board, again. Tonight we're here to discuss the middle school alignment survey data. The survey, as you'll recall, went out about a month or so ago. We've been working hard to look at the data, make some summary views of the data that we found. And today I'll be putting it into context, hopefully for us for our future discussions. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. So tonight I'll start by setting context, do a little bit of background information, what led us to the survey. I'll do a brief survey overview, some of the stats behind the survey, what we found in the data highlights section. And then I'll close with kind of our next steps and our path forward. The last piece there that you'll see is the appendix, which is the full survey results. In slides, I think it's 25 through 50. You can actually go into the survey. You can see the exact responses to each of the questions that were asked, as well as the free response items. There's links to view that data as well. It was important to me to be transparent with our data and share with our community everything that was shared with us. So tonight I'm going to start by kind of sharing our question. We started talking a couple months ago about enrollment, looking at the impact on our middle schools. And really our question that our survey is guiding is, should we consider transitioning from 2 TK8 schools to 1? And this is made complex because the sustainability of 3 middle schools is becoming increasingly less feasible. We have approximately 290 fewer students in 6 years. Both the size of our small schools are under capacity at this point in time. You see the enrollment right there. Ralston has no space available at 6th grade, Nesbitt 33, and Sandpiper 45 spaces. Our school model inherently comes with more costs. It's complicated by lower enrollment and demand. And while finances aren't a motivating factor, we do have an obligation to look at that as we move forward with our structural deficit. I noticed in our survey there was some question about the models. How are we defining a comprehensive model, and how are we defining a small school model? Our comprehensive middle school model that we've been referring to is Ralston. It's your traditional middle school environment. When we talk about our TK and K8 school models, we're talking about Sandpiper and Nesbitt. The other thing that I want to draw attention to is neither model is better than the other model. Both models have their strengths. Both models have their challenges. We pride ourselves in providing the just right fit for each of our students and our families, and our goal is to continue to do that. But I bring this forth just to point out some of the strengths and challenges that we see in both models so that people can weigh those out. So today's conversation is really looking at what our next steps is, starting the conversation and what our next steps should be. This decision that'll likely take place in February is driven by a number of factors, leading to just a few outcomes, right? We're looking at things like ease and access for our students. We're looking at financial feasibility. We're looking at enrollment-related concerns. We're working with our community to see their desire and requesting their input. After we take a look at all these things, there's four possible decision points. One is we stay status quo. We keep two small schools and we keep one comprehensive Ralston, or we look at reducing to one middle school, one comprehensive Ralston and one smaller school, Nesbitt or Sandpiper. And the fourth option out there that does loom, and I feel it's important to bring it up, is do we move towards two middle school programs? Not big Ralston and not small school. Do we move to two somewhere in the middle? And I will say, if we were to think that we need to go down that fourth path there, that would require a much more complex engagement with our community. It would involve impacting more than just our middle school. So I just want to put that out, that fourth solution is not one that can be done this year for implementation next year. Talking timeline, as I shared, January is going to be our community outreach. It's our in-person sessions to meet with our community, to hear their thoughts, their hopes, their desires when it comes to our middle school environment. Information about that has already gone out to our community and will be continue to go out as we near those sessions. February, the board would need to make a decision if we intend to make a change for the 26-27 school year. And then as typical, we do our school selection survey for current fifth graders as they transition. That would happen after the board's decision in February. Before I move into the survey, I do want to just call out that the survey is simply a survey. It's a data representation of everybody who took the survey. It's by no means exhaustive, and it's numerical. Sometimes numbers are easy to digest. Sometimes they're difficult to digest. I do want to point out that anytime we're talking about a topic similar to this, about changes in a program, there is an emotional side to it as well that our numbers don't tell. So I just want to call that out. I know our teachers, our staff are working incredibly hard to provide amazing opportunities for all of our kids at all of our schools. So a couple of things about the survey. Survey was in the field November 3rd through November 10th, roughly a week there. We had 1,118 responses. And it was a representative sample. When we look at responses from schools, we had a good number of families for each of our schools responding, which was a good sign. I will note that when you get into the survey details, it's important to note because the N number, the number of folks who responded to the question, is in there in the details, but sometimes there was it was a responsive survey. So when you said you had an elementary schooler in our district, you got elementary school questions too. If you said no to that, it skipped that section. So just to notice, people are reviewing. So some of our takeaways, what we noticed in summary, respondents mentioned desire for strong academic programs, strong academic performance, electives, preparation for high school in their ideal middle school model. While the data showed a slight favor towards 2 middle schools instead of 3, there are still meaningful portions of respondents who needed more information. You'll see that as we go through the data. Despite that, respondents were still about 4 times more likely to choose Ralston as their school choice over Sandpiper and Nesbitt. And overall, respondents wanted more clarity on potential decisions at play and wanted more information on what potential new alignment might look like for them. So let's jump into the data highlights. So I'm going to just start with the open-ended question. In folks' own words, what makes middle school feel like a great choice? Much of what we would have guessed probably. Strong academics, excellent teachers and leadership, safety, support, and inclusion, opportunities for well-rounded programs, community and belonging. And you're going to see as I click through these next couple of slides that this resonates across the board. In the asking how important certain aspects were to the middle school experience, there was actually a pretty narrow range on a scale of 1 to 4, 2.32 to 3.7. A bunch of different aspects, academic programs ranked, school reputation, school culture and climate, advancing learning, extracurricular opportunities were the top 5. You can, in the appendix, you can see how each one was rated. But the one thing I would note about this question is, academic or school reputation. Well, what does that really mean? It was all determined by the view of the individual, right? School reputation could be great programs and great climate and high rankings, right? So this just gives us a window into what people are thinking. Again, summarizing, respondents prioritized academic outcomes, fully funded programs, and electives as priorities in case of realignment. You can see that in those 2 graphs, strong preparation for high school, and that's even in strong academic performance on both of those potential outcomes and values ranked highest. When we asked about the future of middle school programs and folks to describe their reaction to the idea of moving to 2 smaller programs, a meaningful portion of our community is open to that idea of moving to 2 programs with, again, many needing more information. So you can kind of see how the data played out there. It seems like a majority is open to moving to 2 programs. So this was not my favorite question, partially because in some of the feedback, the responses that we noted, there was one question or one option, comprehensive middle school and one standalone middle school. I learned that people interpreted that a couple of different ways. Actually, when the survey was in the field, I actually had somebody reach out and say, hey, can we talk about this one question? And so in terms of looking at the data for that question, it makes it a little bit complicated, but we are able to say that despite some confusion on those definitions, respondents recognize that a change from our status quo is needed, right? You can see that in the graph that the dark blue there, the staying with the current configuration, only 23% indicated that staying with the current configuration is needed. Again, there's a big portion, almost 25%, saying they wanted some more information. We asked families about which model best reflects their desires for education in BRSSD, a comprehensive model or a smaller TKA model. The truth is the community sees both models of school as important to have in our district. You can see that from our data. The comprehensive middle school is about 50%. those unsure was a small sliver. And then there was quite a few with both models and some feeling that we should have more TK8s. And with that said, when we asked about middle school programs, elementary folks where they were looking, generally a majority of respondents would choose to send their students to Ralston, about 4 times compared to Nesbitt and Sandpiper. And with that, we also recognize that that decision for many is likely to be already set. We asked elementary school families how did they think that their preference would change over time, and a vast majority said it had already been set. I can pause.
When we're looking at this 1, 2, 3, 4, are those grade levels? Or-
No, it was, you know what, I should have put that. 4 was, I am very confident that my preference will remain.
Got it. Thank you.
So there's a lot of positive that was happening in our survey. Regardless of the school, the district feels confident that any of our middle schools provide a high quality education and experience to all. The 2 questions, the one in the green, how well do you feel your child's school has made them feel, has met, sorry, we're missing a T, met their academic and social emotional needs. In green, you can see extremely well, a 4, majority there. And how well do you think your child was prepared for high school? Again, high on 3s and 4s. So all of our middle schools, regardless of which middle school you attended, are providing or are attending, are providing a high quality experience. I'll go ahead and start to close with some of the open-ended responses at the end. They reinforce the trends from previous questions that asked for ample communication around decision and equity focused and a proper plan for implementation. These were the questions. Is there anything you'd like to tell us or anything you'd like us to know? They wanted, again, to tell us strong teachers and staff, school climate, enrichment electives, school size and placement. We heard a lot of comments in those areas. And again, anywhere you've seen bubbles in this presentation or in the next one, you can actually go click on those links. These are just summary points. And then finally, anything else that our community would like to tell us. Again, a focus on communication. Tell us what you're thinking. Keep us in the loop as you're thinking about it, and involve us in the conversation. The idea of equity, stability, student experience, options, and guaranteed enrollment. There was a lot of comments about that moving forward. And we hope to clarify those. Some of those things at this point in time is just too early to tell. The final section is really next steps and kind of a summary. January, when we come back in January, we do start the community outreach. We have 2 special board meetings, a regular board meeting scheduled in the month of January. The 2 special board meetings are really designed for us to do a similar presentation like we're doing today, but allow our community to talk with us and share their thoughts and opinions in an open format. We'll be advertising that 2 ways. We'll encourage our community, if they want to share their thoughts in person, to join us at those town hall style special board meetings on January 8th and January 21st. All these events are also streamed via YouTube. So we want to make sure that they have access to hear it from home. And then finally, that bottom piece, in addition to attending or live streaming any of the sessions, anybody can feel comfortable emailing feedback at brssd.org. We will receive that email and that input And it's our commitment to make sure that that information gets provided to the board. Since we started this process, we've had a handful of folks email feedback. I did provide that to the board as well, and I will do that on a regular basis as we move through January. And with that, I just want to reiterate kind of our timeline. Again, January is that outreach, that in-person consultation where we're trying to understand what perceptions our families have about our middle school so that we can make the decision that's in the best interests of our students and our district moving forward. February is the timeline where the board will need to make a decision if it's to impact the 26-27 school year. And again, in the spring is when our fifth grade families will start to make their middle school preferences. And I'm not going to click through it, but just kind of show folks question by question, a lot of the same because I pulled those slides up. But then you see the link on the right side that'll take families to the free response and provide more detail. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
So if we go back to, thank you, Dan, for putting together
Yep.
this survey. If we go back to that first slide, the one around should BRSD consider transitioning from 2 TK K-8 schools to 1? I note that Ralston has 0 seats available. Nesbitt has 33 available. Sandpiper has 45 available. However, if we do the math and we want to pull the Sandpiper students, we'll say take the Sandpiper students, put them all into Nesbitt, or Nesbitt students all into Sandpiper. We don't necessarily have the capacity, right? Because Ralston's at 0. So how would we reconcile that?
Good question. So those are the seats available. So every year, every spring, we take a look at what we call position control, where we're anticipating the number of students that are going to be enrolled at a specific school. And we do our calculations to understand what the staffing needs to match and the facilities that need to match. That's why our timing and our process is important, right? We can't wait till June to make the decision. So any decision would need we'd make some adjustments in staffing. And presumably there's going to be some level of choice. If we do consolidate to 1 TK, there's going to be presumably some choice. Some students would likely go maybe to the other small school. Some students may transfer up to Ralston. That would be all decided at the time the decision is made.
So to clarify, if I'm understanding you right, when we say Ralston, for example, is at capacity, we're not saying it's physical capacity, it's just current staffing
That is correct.
capacity.
That
So
is
we can
correct.
increase that capacity and therefore accommodate more students at Ralston if needed.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Historically, Ralston used to be our only middle school. I was never here during that time. I want to say 10, 12 years ago, I think that transition happened. Ralston was pushing between 13 and 1,400 kiddos.
And going along with Trustee Tang's question, which I thought was a really good question. So along those lines, too, just to clarify, Nesbitt and Sandpiper, it may not be as easy, but either of them could have more middle school students than
That-
even the seats available extra, if we made that decision.
That is correct. There is space in either of our small schools to absorb the need.
Thank you. So if hypothetically everyone who is currently at Nesbitt or Sandpiper wanted to stay at a small middle school and there was only one small middle school, theoretically we could accommodate everybody.
It would be tight, but we would do our best to accommodate everybody. Yes, the hope is, and quite frankly, with 2 small schools, they are both in a place where they have kiddos, but the scale is really hard, right? They're divided amongst two small schools. So the hope is, I think that we'd have strong interest in scaling a single small school, that it would both provide the educational opportunity that we're looking to provide at our TK8s, and as well as be feasible from a maintenance type situation, sustainability.
Thank you, Dan, for the presentation, and thank you, Trustee Northrup and Trustee Tang, for your thoughtful questions. I have several questions, so if if any of them are off base, let me know. So when the model to have the smaller schools was looked at, do we know if the community was specifically interested in a K-8 or TK-8 school at that time?
So I wasn't here at that point in time. My understanding is the TK8, K8 model was brought on board to meet a capacity concern because Ralston had exceeded its capacity.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, so if there was consolidation between, because currently we have one TK8 and one K8, is there any thought to if the TK8 is transitioned, would we then, like, what about the TK class? Where does the TK class go? Would that move to the other middle school and that would then become a TK8? Or would we have a K8 and then we would
No.
take?
Thank you for that clarification. I think that's an important distinction. We are only looking at making an adjustment at 6, 7, and 8. So the K and TK classes would stay put and stay status quo. We would continue to have TK at Sandpiper. We would continue to start K at Nesbitt.
Okay, and there's no opportunity to discuss that during this time? We're only discussing 6 through 8?
That's our concern at hand is the middle school model.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Then another question for the students that are enrolled at Nesbitt. Do they have to be in the IB program if they go to Nesbitt?
Nesbitt's middle years program, 6-8, is a certified middle years IB program. It is the only option for middle schoolers at Nesbitt. I do want to say one thing about that program. That program does have a transition program in high school. Sequoia does offer the IB high school program, in which students can graduate also with an IB diploma from the high school program. So there is that pathway.
Thank you. And I know that at Sandpiper that has the design thinking kind of special interest. Is that something that you think if we did consolidate middle schools and we had Sandpiper kind of move into Nesbitt, would the design thinking program also be available and moved over as an option, or would they all have to do IB?
Yeah, I think there's elements, there's programmatic elements, I think, that are very similar between an IB program and the design thinking model. Specifically, I don't want to say project-based side, but they're more project-based. They're a little bit more interdisciplinary. There's a little bit more thought. The IB is a standalone IB program that follows rigorous IB guidelines. So would we move one model into the other or vice versa? Probably not. Are there elements of both models that overlap? I would say absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess then, just for clarification, so if we did then say have Ralston and then have a K-8 at Nesbit and a TK-5 at Sandpiper, what you're saying is that anyone who goes to Nesbit would be in the IB program.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Um, just to follow on, so if we were to move on the flip side, if Nesbit, we took Nesbit and made that a K-5 and went to Sandpiper as a TK-8, would that mean we would keep just the design thinking program at Sandpiper, or would we move the IB because I know Nesbit went through a lot in order to get that certification. Would
Absolutely.
we be moving that IB program over to Sandpiper? And at that point, what would happen to the design thinking portion or the IB program?
Yeah. I would probably encourage our board to really think about the configuration and then allow the what or the specialty to follow and decide on the format and then we decide on the what and the how. So yes, and there's probably a lot more to that.
So I just want to clarify, just for my own understanding. I guess I was under the impression that the IB program is at Nesbit.
That's correct.
Okay. So like if we decided hypothetically that Nesbit is no longer a 6 through 8 program, do we have to then go through the whole process again to become certified?
We would have to work with IB to see about transitioning that. Yes, likely we would have to go through some recertification.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't done, so pardon. I just had a question about transportation, and I know that like we don't have buses currently, but if there's a need and say, there's a family at one of the smaller middle schools and now there's only one, whichever one, and now there's families who they cannot get their kids to school, we have to then provide transportation. Is that correct?
We do not provide transportation as a district. We provide required transportation for students with special needs. We are reliant on Samtrans to provide district transportation up and down Ralston. We do have a very, very small sliver of transportation that we do have to support families on an as needed basis, and it's utilizing our the transportation provided under the Tinsley Transfer Program. So we have a little bit, but generally speaking, no, we rely on Samtrans. But Samtrans does work with us. They work closely with schools to ensure that school needs are met. They're actually really good with their school routes. We would work with them to make sure. Currently, Samtrans runs service up Ralston. They start in Redwood, they start in the morning in Redwood Shores, and they go up to Ralston with stops along the way. In the afternoon, they start at Ralston and they go down the hill. So regardless of the configuration, we would work with Samtrans.
So right now, so there really shouldn't be a concern because, sorry, I guess I was under the impression that the Samtrans was only servicing Ralston Middle School. And so that's not the case.
Samtrans starts at, no. So Samtrans starts in Redwood Shores and it makes stops all the way along Ralston.
So like, for example, like if somebody was in Redwood Shores, they could take a Samtrans bus and they could get off at Nesbit.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I think this is my final question. I'm so sorry. Unless somebody else asks a question that sparks something. So there was some concern about people that were not non-English speakers or English is not their first language, and confusion with the survey. Is there any plans to take a look at that or I just want to make sure that we're very transparent and that we're making sure that everybody has had the chance to comment and a chance to understand the materials if they didn't understand.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we have our January town hall at special board meetings. We want our community to be able to come out and make sure that their voice is heard. I also invite anybody to submit comments, feedback. That's the probably easiest way to share your comments outside of the context of any question. You can really just tell us how you feel.
Thanks, Dan. Do we have any kind of like translators or anything available for people?
You know, it's, I will say technology is our friend in those areas. We have the resource, I'll just say we have the resources because I've used it in this way AI is pretty good at doing language translation. And they can send it to us in any language and we can pretty much translate it via Google Translate and whatnot.
Okay, great. And I just, hopefully people know that this is an available service. Can we say that maybe? I mean, are we going to do any other, like when we do the mailers? I know you already sent it and I'm so sorry I didn't think about this beforehand, but like, it would be great to just have a note that like, or maybe in an, like, we could translate into some other.
I want to say, so actually I do have so in Parent Square, and I'm going to look back to Jerome, in Parent Square, there's actually a feature where parents can set their language. So my hope is that communication that's going home is already being translated. Am I correct on that, Jerome? Okay, thank you.
That's great. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no
Dan.
problem.
Appreciate it.
Can I piggyback though? One thing you said that was interesting was, you know, the English language learners maybe not being able to have the survey in their native languages best. So obviously we're a diverse community. There's a lot of native languages, but were they able, I didn't think I heard a direct response. Were they able to access the survey in anything other than English? Was it the ability, like you're mentioning, to be able by them to translate it as they received it?
So the survey was only put out in English, but I'm going to look towards Jerome. Jerome, within the Google survey, is there translatable features on the parent side? So parents would likely already have that set up within their Google. Yeah. So Director Simon said that there are, and Jerome kind of yell up to me if I'm misspeaking. There are features within the Google platform that if you are speaking a language other than what's being projected on the screen, it can auto translate for you. Is that correct?
Can I bring in this?
So you open it up at the top of the page and it translates the form for you. Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Sorry, I had another question back at the presentation. You had given us 4 options.
Mm-hmm.
1, status quo, what we are. 2, 1 where we have Nesbit and Ralston, and the second where we have Ralston and Sandpiper. And then 4, you had said that 2 middle school programs with 2 smaller comprehensive programs would impact more than just our middle schools and that it would require a lot more effort. Just to entertain that hypothetical scenario, can you give me a small picture of what that might look like and the effort involved and the amount of support within the community that would require?
Sure. So if we decided to go to a model where we did not have a giant middle school and smaller middle schools, presumably our 1,200 or so kids would be split into 2. So roughly 2 600 student schools. We would need a facility that would hold 600 students. That would require us to make an adjustment for the K-5 or TK-5 students at that school, finding a new placement, as well as ensuring that we have middle school facilities for those 600 kids.
So to clarify, it would involve shutting down in elementary school in order to turn that into a middle school.
That's the only way you would have space for 600.
Thank you.
Yes. Hence, I want to be very clear, that is not a 1 year or several month decision. That's a much longer decision. It would require us to look at boundaries. Who decides, where is that middle school? And once you find the location for it, where are the boundaries for it? And then that's the logistics. The one thing that I think our survey is telling us is that our community desires choice and flexibility and options. And we are able to have a lot of options at scale. When you have the number of teachers at Ralston that we have, there's a lot of options. All of those kiddos have to have electives, right? So we need teachers to teach all of those electives. Based on the number of credentials that they have with the number of student or teachers that they have, they can create a lot of different configurations, which gives the diversity in that choice. As soon as we start to shrink that down, we lose some of that flexibility and some of that choice. So while 600 schools might sound great, I'm not sure that it actually is what our community is looking for, especially when we see a high preference for Ralston, because those two equivalent sized middle schools would actually be somewhere in the middle of what we have at both sides. So it would, all that to say is it would take a lot longer to do that decision. And I'll be totally transparent. I don't know that it is in our best interests to go down that path.
So just to clarify what you're saying, I'm hearing that if we were to go to a 2 smaller middle school option, we would end up basically needing to reduce the number of electives at any one given middle school. And we would basically end up with fewer advanced courses, all those things that they mentioned in the survey that were really valuable about their middle school choice.
That's what I would anticipate, because scale gives you a lot of flexibility.
Got it.
Right? Scale gives you the flexibility. So the more kids, the more teachers, the more flexibility.
Thank you. I had one more question. Is that okay? If we look at the survey question, respondents prioritized academic outcomes, fully funded programs and electives as priorities. That second chart says which outcomes. Or is this, I don't know. The one right after this one. Yeah. So the one on the right, when we're talking about potential outcomes, you would want to see prioritized. It says that ensuring that programs are fully funded and staffed. Are we thinking that that means we want to make sure that we have like a fully functional performing arts, for example, or what does that?
It honestly wasn't. I can't tell you what each person was necessarily thinking. On the left side there, aspects of middle school that they value most.
Yep.
So thinking about middle school that they value, as opposed to on the right side, it was if realignment happened, which outcomes would you most want to see prioritized? So a little bit of value and if we did, what should we kind of thing, and stronger academic and ensuring programs are fully funded came up. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. And again, there's elements of reading into what people are saying, but we are funding IB. We are funding different types of electives. So ensuring that those programs, when they're launched, are fully funded and continue to remain sustainable.
So not like kind of sort of funding it, but not, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I think of is can you kind of talk a little bit to what the realignment process from the aspect of the perspective of the teacher, especially with credentialing, if one small school is closed down, and they're multi-credentialed versus single subject?
Yes. So in the state of California, in public schools, you have to have specific credentials to teach specific subject areas. There's a lot of nuances. So it's not always a black and white answer. Middle school, generally, you have to have a single subject or an authorization in the subject area to teach a middle school environment. In a TK-8 setting, you have the flexibility to have a multiple subject credential to teach in that setting as well. And teachers often have multiple credentials. So the one thing that I am certain about and believe strongly is while we may be changing the format of our programs and where they're housed, we still need teachers to teach our students. So where our students go is where we will need teachers and need to staff accordingly. I do not believe that this decision will cause us to need to lay off teachers or anything like that. Every year from year to year, we have teachers that are moving, are retiring. There's always some hiring that happens. And I think the transfer process, which actually is dictated by contract, and we would work closely with BRSFA on, is finding if there was a need to make adjustments for our teaching staff in a new location, potentially a new grade. It all depends on credentialing, and that's an intricate puzzle that we'll work with AHR and BRSFA on. But the goal is, I can't say that it's going to be 100% possible, but I want our teachers to teach where they're happy and they're excited to teach to the greatest extent possible. And we will do our best to honor those desires. Is it a guarantee? No. There's lots of constraints, but we will do our best. Our teachers love the kids they teach, and they love the schools they teach at. It's super hard right now to be having these conversations for our staff at Nesbitt and Sandpiper to be hearing these conversations, right? They are in limbo. But this is an important conversation that the board needs to look at from a number of different perspectives. And it's not a judgment on what's happening at either of our two small schools or the teachers teaching there.
I agree. Can I ask another question, or do you want to go ahead? Okay. You feel pretty good about the timeline with the first three scenarios being able to, it seems like, is it an aggressive timeline, or is there some good space in there to be able to start the new configuration and the new alignment, if that's what we choose for the next year?
Yes, there's sufficient space so long as the board makes a decision in the February timeframe and feels comfortable doing that. We have the time that we need to do on the back end to do moves, transfers, school assignment, hence potentially pushing out our middle school survey a little bit further than we did in past years.
To follow on with that, if we were to decide to go along with the realignment scenario, would it be suddenly the middle school just doesn't exist and we move everyone over? So like your sixth graders, seventh graders would all move to Ralston or the other small middle school? Or would it be transitioning them out slowly as they go through? The current sixth graders would at least finish out eighth grade at one school, or what does that look like?
So no decisions on that have been made. I think it's important that we make our primary decision first and then move from there. That said, at first, I think, great, let everybody transition. It sounds good. Everybody has their time in their program. It becomes really difficult for that in a couple of situations. The small school model is all built on 7 teachers, 6 teachers and a rotating prep. So when you're graduating kids out and reducing those numbers, it potentially becomes more difficult. The second thing is you transition 8th grade out, then you have really a K5, 7 and 8. Maybe not so odd because you're just missing a grade in between. I think it's that following year when you have a very, very small cohort and your TK or K5 and then 8th grade. I think that becomes a little bit less desirable at that point. So again, while no decisions have been made, I think likely should we go that route, it's a change all at once.
And then, sorry, I have so many questions, you guys. One more question around, we had gotten feedback from one of our parents that had mentioned that many people did not see or realize the importance of filling out the survey. And I know if that's the case, right, would we have another opportunity to survey the population or the community before we make a decision, and ideally after the special board meetings?
Yeah, I think the board can absolutely decide if you feel an additional survey is warranted. Quite honestly, I think this is a representative survey, meaning with 4,000, roughly 4,000 students and 1,100 respondents, give or take. That is more representation than we have in the vast majority of surveys we do in the district. So while it may not have captured everybody's specific thoughts, it gives the board kind of a direction. And I think really that's all the takeaway, the big takeaway. I don't encourage the board to really digest, 6% versus 8% versus I think really it's the big takeaways that's most important for the board at this point, those kind of headlines on our slides.
I just wonder how many of the people responding really understand it as much as we go through this process, right? So at the beginning, there's a certain amount of information that they have that they know. And then after a little bit more of these town halls where they get to ask questions, get to digest some of this information, would that change any thoughts or ideas or perceptions?
And if the board would like us to, as part of their deliberation, would like an additional survey, that's something we can absolutely entertain.
Yeah, just a comment about that as well. I feel like because there were so many responses that said they needed more information, I feel like I would want to make sure that those people then could say like, I went to the board meeting or I looked at the information and now I understand. Because like if there is 30% of people who just need more information and then we don't know that they got the information, I don't know that I would feel comfortable.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that a lot of respondents in the survey said they needed more information, and I'm tending to think that like what we're doing with tonight and then with the sessions in January, that's where we're providing the additional information. I think in our questions and our discussion, we've laid out some specifics that maybe weren't, as clearly delineated. And so now community members can think about that of, like we said, not to just reiterate everything that we said, but I would be hesitant to send another survey because I believe that we would not get as high of a response rate. And I think that the response rate is pretty good compared to other surveys. And if we had a smaller response rate, then I think it would probably be less representative of the entire community.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Thank you, trustee Northrup. I think from my kind of what I was thinking, I don't know if you're in the same boat here, but I don't think it would be like the same survey. I think it would just be like after, we've spent this time discussing and people had a chance to come. Do you feel like you have enough information now? Not asking them to like actually answer the questions, but just making sure that people understand it after hearing the information. And I don't know if there's something we could do in that way where it's not really resetting the survey, but just kind of feeling that people
Shifting it.
understand. Yeah.
One of the things I can say is I personally am not viewing our town halls and our board, or whatever we present at our regular board meeting, as one-stop shop, meaning it's not going to be this, it's probably not going to be the same presentation each time. I think as part of our responsibility of being reflective, it's hearing concerns and trying to provide information for all of us to feel comfortable in making that decision when it comes. So, I'm already thinking about, when we're hearing public comment, how do we go about taking that and actually crunching it in some way that provides us, what are the things that we heard most about, and then let's talk about that again next time. So we'll try and work through that. But I think the first January session will start very similar to this presentation. Probably pull in a couple other data points, maybe go into a little depth on a couple of our challenges, enrollment challenges. And then the future January meetings will adjust based on what we hear at the first one.
So I kind of go with sorry. So I was thinking what Trustee Northrup was saying, that I think as a board, we've collectively tried to put ourselves in the community's shoes and ask questions that are relevant that we feel, but also maybe are representative of the questions of the community if they were kind of here. We'll hear more of that in the town hall. So I kind of agree with that. I also like Superintendent what DeGuara did with the flyer, putting the link to the survey. The question I've also received anecdotally, stopped outside of these meetings, is like you mentioned, right? People didn't understand that the survey was kind of gathering information, but also for this decision that it's forthcoming. But I think that we have all these points made. I think what might be helpful, without getting into the minutia, would be summarizing that maybe into an area so that maybe all the information is present where they're going, but then also trying to elevate the questions into either like common FAQs or something, some mechanism so that, an engaged community member could just go and try to get their questions answered, in addition to obviously using the feedback mechanism that we set up. So I think that at the end, I would hope that they would come to and be like, I feel I have enough information between all these meetings and all the data points to make a sound decision, or at least feel confident that I have the trust in the district leadership and the board that they're making a decision on that represents my students, my child's needs. I mean, I'm hoping that that's the outcome of all of these town hall meetings.
Trustee Cost, a couple things. One is I appreciate the reminder about an FAQ as we're hearing those questions that are coming up repeatedly. And I think we'll definitely start to hear that in our town hall. How do we collate those and provide responses for people to refer back to? And I think oftentimes we may have a question, we may hear a question from our community that we don't have a response to, and that's okay. That's information for us. The final thing I do want to point out, and if I go back to this piece here, go back one more. Community input and desire is an important factor, as are several other important factors in there. Enrollment, while it is a piece, there's roughly about a $300,000 cost for each of our small schools. You'll hear in a little bit in our interim report that we have a sizable deficit. Does it cure the deficit? No. Could it go towards reducing it? Yes. Do we have to do that at this point in time? No. But those are all important decisions the board needs to think about as it relates to programs and so I guess my point is lots of factors. Yes, what our community is telling us, and enrollment study, and financials, and program feasibility. All of those things come into play.
Dan, just one thing for clarification. I don't know if I heard you wrong or if you misspoke. Did you say 3,000?
300.
Okay.
Yeah.
300.
Sorry
That's
if I
what
misspoke.
I was like, I thought I heard you say 3,000. I was like, that can't be right. Thank you. And then just a point on communication, and thank you for coming back here to show that that's something our community desires. I feel like as a board and as a district, we should do everything we can to be as transparent as possible. And so that's all I ask as far as the communications, just that we're being transparent and giving people the opportunity to, come in here, get their questions answered. If they come to all the meetings and they still have questions, I just want it to be very clear that they can still ask those questions and send the feedback emails and things like that.
Yeah, I can't guarantee I can do this for everybody who might want to, but thus far, anybody who's wanted to talk with me, who's called up with questions about the survey, I've had several conversations with folks. I've had conversations with Nesbitt staff, with Sandpiper staff, and I'm committed to that communication. So as much as possible. And I'm going to reiterate, the survey data is all there, verbatim, cut and paste with a few redactions to provide some anonymity if a teacher was mentioned. But the spirit of the comment really remains. There was a couple that were, I'll just say, I want to say maybe one or two or three that felt really overcritical. So there was a few redactions in there, but very few redactions in the survey. We want people to see it and read it.
Can I ask a few? I don't have it. I don't think it's many. I just want to make sure I heard this right. If Nesbitt shrinks to whatever, middle school has moved away, we would not reintroduce TK at that site.
There's no plan to.
Okay. Just need to hear that. And then I should have asked this months ago, but does this conversation have any impact on the districting work we did?
No.
Districting?
The trustee representation, no. That is not student dependent. It's population and voter registration dependent.
Yep. Looking at this survey and the work we've done and going forward, and this is not me saying it needs to happen, I'm also just curious, are we seeing the responses, opinions, feedback of either students or faculty?
We have not. We have just done community feedback at this point. And
is that part of it? Again, not saying there needs to be a survey, but maybe site administrators are doing it, or you feel like you've got your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I shared. I am totally 100% confident that our teachers love their kids and love their schools. And that's the feedback you're going to receive. Don't move me. Don't change my program. I love what I do. I love being here.
I meant, yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, I'm glad that actually that got voiced. I more meant just as people who see our district from different perspectives, they may have again, when I look at this slide of like what's important to you, reputation or not, and things like that, I think it's another group of people who have an important, in whatever way to find it. Again, I imagine our teachers might know how our students feel, or again, you may, or your team may already know how our faculty feel, despite the part where maybe it's a sense of threat,
Yeah.
but just a part of like, what information do you have, you know? I imagine there might be teachers at Ralston who would agree that a small school has its impact in like that voice.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not trying to oversell that.
Yeah.
It was just more of a
I
question.
will say the way I've gone about that is really to make myself available to
Yeah.
the two staffs.
Sweet. And then this last one is actually maybe more of a recommendation than a question. When I look through the appendix and I see a slide, I like that you asked if people wanted more information. I like that it's like kind of like the transparency and letting them say, I don't feel like I know enough is there. And then you have a slide that wasn't in your primary, but is in the appendix that actually lists some of the like main questions you pulled out when people say, I need more information. Slide 49 here says they wanted clarity on options, timeline and process, student and school impact, program equity.
Yeah.
I don't know where I stand on it, like a necessity of a survey, but I would say an email that answered those questions, I think would go a long way, even perhaps offered in either different languages or with a part being like, translate this to get, here is more information on our timeline and process. Here is more information on equity. Here's what declining enrollment and how it impacts that. I think if people are saying that's what I don't know, rather than serving again, or even saying, come to this meeting, you could just put something out that says, here it is. And you
Yeah.
do this, by the way, to be clear,
Yeah.
this is not about you or your team. I just, when I hear us talking about people clearly saying
Yeah.
that they don't want it, again, I like that you actually quantified what it is they think they don't know. And I do think simply giving them that would be important.
One of the things that because I read everything that came in depth. One of the things that I realized that people craved
Mhm.
was to know what the end result is.
Absolutely.
And know what happens after a decision is made.
Mhm.
Partially, the decision needs to be made until for those things to happen.
Right.
So recognizing that, I do appreciate, and I think that's a combination of kind of that FAQ that's curated and reminding folks that, hey, this is what we're hearing. This is what we're able to answer at this point in time. Or maybe this is a question we're getting all the time, and the answer is to be determined.
Right.
Sometimes that's information, and then directing folks.
That's why.
to that. Yeah.
Because I think when you look at the number, like I think 1,000 responses, I agree, is great. But if you think of the number of students and the number of potential guardians and staff, you're talking about upwards of 10,000 people. So like 1,000 responses, while great, is not. In another survey, it might be less than that. But if you know that that many have the answers that 1,000 asked for, I think that checks the box. Yeah. That's it. Anything else? And that was a discussion item.
That was a
has been
discussion, no action is needed.
discussed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the board engaging and having thoughtful conversation. It is, like I said, a heavy topic.
Mhm.
It's an important topic to look at, but there is an emotional side to it. So thank you for engaging.
Yes, thank you. We're going to move to item 12, or 26-27 instructional calendar. Director Eastburn.
Good evening. What you have in front of you is another collaborative effort between BRSFA and the school district. This 26-27 calendar closely mirrors that of Sequoia Union, matching start and end date and major holidays to the most extent possible, except for a little creative thinking this year. The Thanksgiving holiday is now being proposed as a week long. Great for families, great for staff. And I think actually having a week long off, having the 2 days off, Monday and Tuesday, will help with attendance, because a lot of families tend to take the whole week off anyway. So I see that as a positive. So it's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the 26-27 instructional calendar. Question?
It might be. You mentioned that the Thanksgiving break, you mentioned is that not consistent with with Sequoia?
It is not.
And so.
Theirs is 3 days.
So they go 3 days and they only have Thursday and Friday off.
Or they will
Okay,
have
Monday, Tuesday.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
We usually have,
off.
yeah.
Oh, I thought oh, sorry. I thought that we changed our Thanksgiving to match Sequoia.
No, that is the one difference.
Oh, that's so
The one
interesting.
major difference.
Didn't they have the whole week off this past Thanksgiving? Oh. What do I know? Nothing. So we don't have the same question then. Sorry, Director Eastburn. I was just curious and just wanting to make sure, I'm sure you guys already thought about all of this, but I'm just wondering, like with Veterans Day as a holiday and then having that whole next week as all minimum days and then having the whole Thanksgiving week off, is there any concern with like the curriculum or anything like that?
No, I think the instructional days are the same in total. And moving the conference days, I think there's a difference of 2 days there. So it's not a great shift. It's a slight shift.
Okay, well, on that note, then I move that we approve the
Oh, wait,
20.
wait,
wait.
Oh, sorry.
I thought you were thinking that'd be more, yeah, please.
Technically, she can motion and use discussion.
So-
Oh, yeah. That's okay.
So very happy to see Thanksgiving as a full week. I think that will be taken advantage of, and I've heard through different avenues that like a small request for it. Was that a big kind of alignment push, or was that kind of really like
Staff, it's actually what BRSFA wanted.
good?
It wasn't an alignment to Sequoia, but I think everybody would enjoy having a full week off.
Yeah.
And it would help attendance. So
And then the conferences, the TK conferences through 8th,
mhm.
what, because that's usually always seems to be, I think they use Monday and Tuesday this year, right? too?
Usually it would have been the 17th, 19th, 20th.
Okay, so
They're
the
25th.
13th and 16th are taking that spot.
Mhm. It's just a 2-day shift.
Okay. But like you said, in terms of instructional days,
Thing.
so they'll work around that new.
Yeah,
count.
it's the same in total.
Great.
The calendar committee always functions within the same parameters because a lot of the days are contractual. How many days we offer for conferences, how many PD days. So they're typically always working within the same number of days and ideas. It's just how they jigger them and how federal holidays often fall that allow us that little bit.
And so where the day came from or where it ended up was at the end of the year instead of the last day being a Thursday. It's a Friday. And the spring semester always needs more days, in my opinion, because of testing and other things. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a good shift, as a result of the Thanksgiving break.
Yeah. I'm sorry, can I ask one more? So in general, I'm always trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out like, what is like early dismissal days? Obviously, we have the Wednesday, the minimization day. And that's kind of set by contract, right?
Mhm.
Is there any way to know, or do we have any for this calendar year? And how would a parent be
There's-
able to find out if a Friday was an early dismissal day or not?
Early dismissal day that we are required to give per the contract is the Friday before Memorial Day. So that's May 28th, and it's indicated on the calendar there.
Okay.
The other minimum days are conference days, which are indicated. And
That's
the
great.
first day of school is always, but I think the first day of school is a Wednesday, so that's normal.
That's great. I'm glad it's there because this is a handy reference. Thank you.
I move to. Oh, sorry.
This is why we have a great board.
I move to approve the instructional calendar for 26-27.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays or abstentions, the calendar is approved. Thank you. And it wouldn't be a board meeting without CPO Matsumoto. Item number 13, the first interim fiscal solvency report.
Good evening, trustees, and welcome back to the Resathon. First on today's agenda is the first interim fiscal report. So as always, I like to start off with, could we have a slideshow, please?
We have templates.
Find out. Well, while we get this resolved, I like to start off with a few big things you should know, right? So for the first interim, again, the first interim is an opportunity for us to get a first glance at how we think the budget's going to end up being at the end of the year. A lot of what informs kind of any budgetary changes is just how we are progressing on our total budget through the first half of the year. So the first interim is basically our expenditures from July 1st, 2025 through the end of October. So that's essentially what we are using to help project how we're going to be at the end of the year. As of right now, our budget has increased, and so has our deficit from $5.3 million of a deficit to 6.2 right now. And the largest driver of that is our negotiations that have just finished. We have a larger COLA or negotiated increase in the first year than the second year, and that's reflected in the budget right now. Great. And now that we're back on, I will skip over a few slides, which I've talked through already. And this is essentially just a rehashing of what I said. A lot of the changes is coming from the negotiations. And also one point I'd like to talk about is the advent of the master budget this year. It's a term that I'll talk about more widely throughout our time. But essentially, we moved from a model where principals had to look up into our financial system to figure out how much money they've spent and which lines they have to spend against. And a model that we've started this year is we actually have a Google Sheet that everyone can see and they can go into, of which I update monthly so people can see at a glance just how much money they spent against their different lines, and hopefully in an effort to make it easier for people to spend their money. So these are a few things I'll touch on in a little bit. Great, so let's talk about revenues first. Long story short is not much has changed. We received some few updated numbers. The biggest one here coming from the state as to our property taxes. Right now, that's about a $500,000 increase. But between what is known as P1, which is our first look at our property taxes, and P2, which is the secondary look, things may change. So it may go up and may go down very slightly. But generally, this is all par for the course. Nothing much has changed. Okay, I'd like to spend a little bit of time here on the expenditures because it's a little confusing. You may have heard me just say, well, the increase is in large part to the additional salary from the COLA and our negotiated increase. But when you look at this slide here, you'll say, wait, but none of the salaries have really increased much. So what's going on, Reese? So let me explain. There's kind of two things that are counteracting here. One, our salaries have gone up as a result of our negotiations, right? But if you remember all the way back to April and May, we do this thing called budgeting on a full staffing approach. And what that means is we account for if all of our contractors from the prior year were actually brought in-house to help save us a little bit of money, right? So ultimately, when that may or may not happen, right, we have to then move the salaries out from where they were in the salary lines into the contracted lines, which is the 5,000 line. So as you can see here, that's why the services and other operating expenses line has gone up by roughly $1 million, while most of the classified, certificated, and salaries and benefits have kind of stayed the same, if not decreased very slightly. So that's what's basically driving the change there. But all in all, the real driver here behind all of this numbers here is that we had a negotiated increase, and that's ultimately driving the increase in budget. Okay, so this is a slide that I love, and I'm sure you'll see it a million more times. This is just comparing how much we've spent this given year compared to prior years. And it is benchmarking against our initial budget. So this is benchmarking against the $5.3 million deficit number that we had introduced for the original budget. And as you can see, that dark blue line of where we are right now is higher than that, which is why our forecast is a higher deficit, right? And again, we've just explained why that is. Now, part of this is also being driven by the master budget. And why is that the case? So because of the master budget right now, typically you would expect people to be about a third through their money, at this point of the school year. Well, as you can see from the chart up here, actually our schools are almost at about 40%, while our central office is about 29%. And this kind of means two things. One, for the central office side, it means that we're actually probably slightly under budget on that front, which is a good thing. And two, it means for the schools that they're actually spending more of their money at this point through the year. And that's a good thing, right? Because that means that more of the money that is meant to get in kids' hands are getting in their hands sooner rather than later, right? The worst thing that we want is we get to April, which at the end of April, typically, or the beginning of May, is when we stop schools spending, basically. We put a hard cap on them to make sure that they get all their materials in time, because there's a lead time once they put in a purchase to actually once they receive it. So realistically, they're having between August when they first start and the end of April to spend everything. So if they follow by it's a third of the way through the school year, they're going to get to April and they're going to get to May and they're going to have budget left over. I don't want that. I want them to spend the money that I'm allocating to them because I want that money into our students' hands, into their programs, into their classrooms. So again, this is a thing that's also slightly driving some of our increased costs at this point through the year, but it's a good thing. Okay, so let's talk about the multi-year projections here. Again, I think it's important to just show this slide every time. We know what's happening. We've run surpluses in the past. We're running deficits right now. But given that I would like to preempt, just in case there are any questions about how what we had just talked about might affect this right here, I'd like to say right now, even without any changes, this shows that we'll be able to close the deficit, right? So again, although it is not necessary for us to make any changes right now in regards to our budget, anything that we may do with potential, realignment or consolidation would help this and would help it close a little bit faster. But again, even without that, we should be able to close the structural deficit with still some reserves left over for safety and to make sure that we meet all of our cash flow demands. All right, next steps. Lots of boxes, one simple thing. We're starting to budget for next year. That is the main thing that I'd like to harp on right now. The goal here for us is we want to make sure that budgets are in principals' hands either right before winter break or as soon as we come back from break. And the reason is we want the principals to help decide on their budget sooner rather than later, one, so we can help them. And two, if there are any real personnel changes that need to happen, we can get ahead of the ball. The worst thing that can happen is we decide on some of these budgetary things, specifically around people, too late in the school year. Once you get to May, once you get to April, sorry, I went backwards in months, you start to run into people who have already been poached, right? Those people who are already looking for their jobs for the next year, they may have already signed with another school district. We want to be there first to make sure that we get the best talent consistently for our kids. So the earlier that we can start our budgetary process, the better. And that is why we're starting to budget right now. We're working on the numbers for next year. We're meeting as a central office to figure out what that could look like. And again, some of these decisions will also come out to play in February with whatever happens with our middle schools. But there's still a lot of work that we can do right now, and that's all the work we're trying to get done. Great. And with that, I cede my time. Any questions?
I just had one question. You said that you like to have the budget before the break. Could you just clarify which break?
Oh, winter break.
What?
I had a question about the hiring of teachers at the beginning of the year. Are we hiring just based on what we know about retiring teachers, or is it just that, or do we know anything else? I guess, how far in advance do teachers have to give notice?
So there are lots of negotiations for teachers. We are now offering a bonus if teachers let us know a little bit earlier if they are retiring. So if we believe, let's just say, for example, right, it's a class of something that we mean to offer in the next school year, music, right? We can then go and do a one-to-one, right? Well, you can start looking for a music teacher as soon as possible. In terms of the general education teachers, right? Again, then it specifically comes down to what credential did they have? Is that something that we need a specific credential for? If so, great, then we can get into the market sooner. And, as we think about kind of other teachers, maybe there are more of them out there, or maybe we don't know if we will need them. That's something we have to just keep talking about, right? So I think it's trying to control for the variables that we can control as soon as possible. Sorry, that was kind of a roundabout way of answering that question.
Thank you.
So thank you for this report. What, sounds like it was really good that you changed the behavior, or that the principals just kind of started early on that kind of process of budgeting thinking if they're at 40%. So is that kind of been like a kind of a good trend from previous years? And how did they kind of what was it that was like the magic or to help with the behavior change?
I think it's just accessibility. For better or worse, our financial system is not the easiest to use or to
Mhm.
navigate. And to make matters worse, we switched financial systems this year, and it's actually even harder to access
Oh,
the
boy.
data. Not that people won't be able to get it eventually, but just right now, it's not that easy. And
Mhm.
even in our previous system, you'd have to go through a bunch of keystrokes. You needed to know the formatting of how you put it in to get your specific codes that you had and how much money was in each of them. So all I'm trying to do is just make it more accessible for them, right? Because ultimately, our principals want to adhere to their budgets, right? And they want to know how much they have and how much they have left. And in my opinion, if I can help them make it more transparent, I can help them be more strategic, right?
Mhm.
For example, if someone at my last district, one of our principals wanted a mural, right? And he said, well, okay, I have $10,000 of budget in this line, but I actually don't need that. We don't need these specific materials that I was thinking. We have something else that covers it. Can I then use that money and reallocate it to actually get a muralist to come out and paint this really nice mural across the front office to show our school's history? And so ultimately that line of thinking led the mural to be done over one of the breaks. And so you can enjoy it sooner, right?
Mhm.
Instead of, getting to the end of the year, oh, shoot, I have $10,000 left. What should I do with it? You know what? I could have had a muralist, but I'm not going to be here this summer, so I'm not going to put it into play right now,
Mm.
right? That's the kind of thing that I'm hoping to help drive by putting the money in their hands and really making it accessible as possible.
Great, great. I think it will help. There was a slide which I think it was a breakdown and it had something with sped comment. Yeah. So it's interesting that that's there because one of the special education workshops that I attended over the conference, there was a few participants, other board members that were just saying how much that sped budget for them has increased and represented a very big part of their overall budget and how they were really finding it challenging to kind of offer the services. And so I guess my question is with sped, would you say that it seems like we're in line with previous years? And do you have any, again, off the top of your head, do you feel like that part of the budget has been consistent, or has it been growing, or what?
That part of the budget has definitely been growing, right? And there's kind of two factors that make it complicated. Ultimately, it comes down to the special education maintenance of effort. And what that means is you need to essentially spend the the same amount per pupil for
Mhm.
specifically special education students on a year-to-year basis, if not increase that amount, right? You can't go below or else you don't pass these tests and essentially a bunch of people get mad at you. And because of that, right, and our SPED population as a percentage of our total students has been increasing the last couple of years. For example, between 2023-24 and 24-25, we saw an increase of, I believe it was 11 students, right? And as of right now, it looks like we've increased a few more as well. But that's something that we're budgeting for. And we're trying to keep that MOE intact, that maintenance of effort intact. But it just takes it's a lot of work by us, by the business team, and also the special education team to just make sure that, there aren't any crazy costs that are happening. And, where it makes sense, we find economies of scale. But at the same time, right, special education is a little bit of, it's a little bit uncertain. You just don't know exactly which students are going to walk through your door. And we have to provide adequate services for each one of them, regardless of what that may be, right? And I think that's probably the experience that a lot of districts are having, including us, right? Is you just don't know. Sometimes you may have students that require, less additional supports than others. Some years you may have just one student that comes in, but that one student requires a lot of additional supports. So ultimately it's a little bit of a balancing act, but the trend that we've been seeing across at least San Mateo County is that the proportion of special education students as a percentage of our total students is just slightly creeping up over time. So it's something we're keeping an eye on, and it's definitely a cost driver.
Thank you. Thank you for that background.
Question on this slide, actually, for books and supplies. Why the difference there? I don't know if you answered that earlier.
Yeah. Some of the books and supplies lines are also just from people switching between, I had originally allocated money for this specific, like I wanted to buy CDs or software, which is actually a 5,000 line. And I actually want to buy these specific supplies, which are 4,000 line. So ultimately it balances out, but it's just a difference between people moving things between the lines.
Yeah. Okay. Then on one of the next slides, when you talked about people being at the schools being at 40%, this one, and this is maybe you have an answer too, but what's ideal at this rate? Like, do you have a guidance for schools where you're like, hey, in December you should be at 60%, or is it kind of really up to them?
My only guidance is that you should not be over 100% at this point.
Yeah. Relative to like this year's dollars, like and maybe my question is about the future. So I imagine with the way you explained it earlier, like when it gets to April, if they were out still at 40, you might be like, what's going on? And I guess like, what does that look like?
I think in a world in which there's no strategy involved,
Yeah.
right? I think by now you would want to see them at 30%, 33%. And as of April, you want to see them close to 100%.
There we go.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, expenses are not linear, right? You may see, for example, some of the schools are waiting for a big field trip that they're doing later this year, right? And so that's going to be a lump sum of expenses, right? And then they have one more field trip. That's another lump sum of expenses, right? Unfortunately, expenditures for schools are not linear. It's not like I'm buying $5,000 of books every month. I'm trying to do this initiative. I'm going to spend $5,000. I'll do it this month. I may not spend another $5,000 on books for the next 6 months, right? So unfortunately, it's not really like this is the way it should go. The only thing is when I talk to them, I want to make sure that they're spending their money strategically, right? And they know what they want to spend their money on. It's not just hey, I hit next year and I have $100,000. I'm just going to spend it however I see fit. No, let's sit down. Let's have a plan. Let's make sure it adheres to our LCAP. And how can I best help you purchase these things when you need it?
Gotcha. And then but maybe I'm assuming this to be true, just gotta ask it. When a school ends the year with leftover, it doesn't roll into the next year, they just start with the same number.
Nope, it does not roll over to the next year. Previously, we had a practice where a little bit of funds, I believe a couple thousand would roll over, but my personal budget philosophy is I want you to spend the money you have in a given year. And if you do not spend it, unfortunately, that you just didn't have a usage for. I'm going to
Reallocated.
take it back as
Yep.
savings for the district, and you'll get your new allocation next year.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just looking at, sorry, I had it. The slide 11. This is more of just a positive compliment. Is I just really appreciate, Reese, that you've been able to do this in conjunction with our superintendent and the rest of our staff, to kind of, use that surplus and put us in a position where, even if we're spending more than we have in revenue that year, to the average community member, they're not going to see any effect of that. And I think that's really, really commendable. I know we're a relatively small district, and it tends to be larger districts that you hear about who are facing hard times. But still, I think even with a smaller district, it takes a lot of careful planning and thinking ahead, obviously. So anyway, so I really, really do appreciate that we're not in our time, in my time on the board, in the 3 years I've been on the board. And again, just hearing in the news from different districts that have had to make tough decisions, we are in a strong place financially. So thank you for that. And then, so this may sound contradictory. That being said, with the budget overall being absolutely amazing, I'm wondering about this for working on the 26-27 budget, the working with budget owners to develop their budgets. I'm wondering if we could have a little more detail on like how much is being spent on like different curriculum, things like that. How much is, and I know in different points we see it. And I definitely want to empower the principals to make decisions for their schools that make the most sense. But I also want the board to be able to have input into that. And and again, I know this is not our full-time job, and you and your staff are doing it as your full-time job and doing an amazing job of it. But I think just as representatives of the community, I'd like to be able to know a little bit more of like, okay, I'm just throwing a number out here. We spent $300,000 on science curriculum or something like that, so that we can, and that can be something that we then potentially discuss as a board of, okay, well, maybe we want to spend more on math curriculum or ELA curriculum. Anyway, and I'm digressing now, but just I guess my request is, as you're developing the budgets, if we could get a little bit more detail of where are their questions, and that, right, like for salary, it's decided by negotiations, so there's not really any leeway there. But for the things that are discretionary, just having more of a conversation.
Yeah, understood. I think one of the easiest ways to do that is we can start sharing the master budget with you. I don't think it has all of our budgets on it, and none of that is private data, right? Like that is something that each of the principals can see across each of the different sites, and they can see what everyone else is spending on. And I think, yes, understood, and I think we can make that happen. And I also just, want to point out that our principals don't act in a silo, right? They're not budgeting in a silo. They're also working with Assistant Superintendent DeGuara, right, to make sure that their aim for the next year is aligned with the things we are doing. If we have a pilot, we want to do things in support of that pilot, right? We are pushing that all forward together. So just know that, yes, we can make that more public, and we can definitely keep you lockstep in that process. And also, understood, we are trying to move things forward as a district and not just as individual schools.
Any other questions on this item?
If I could just make a comment.
Please, yeah.
CBO Matsumoto is a little bit modest. Getting a budget as a principal before winter break is like, what are you talking about? We're getting a before, like that's a pretty huge shift. It means as a principal, I know what I'm getting next year in the middle of this year, so that I can already start planning and making decisions now, thinking about my school plan, which you guys actually just approved for this year, right? Already for next year. So that is a huge piece. CBO Matsumoto is building on former CBO Bao's work to educate principals and our staff on how to read a budget, how to develop a budget string, how to put together a plan for spending that's thoughtful. And now he's been able to create the tools that give that visibility to our principals, right? So I commend CBO Matsumoto on that for a lot of good work. Thank you.
You're here. On that note, may I have a motion to approve the first interim solvency report?
I move to approve the first interim fiscal solvency report.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays and extensions, the first interim fiscal solvency report is approved, but he's not going anywhere. Item number 14, appointment of members of Measure I, Measure P, Independent Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Continue the recent thought.
Good evening again, trustees. Welcome to leg 2. When we passed our bond program, as part of it, we are required to have a bond oversight committee. Given that we have 2 open bonds right now, Measure I and Measure P, we have elected to go with one aggregate bond oversight committee. Members of this committee can serve 2-year terms up to twice. So we have a few members that terms have expired, but given that we have just combined into one large bond oversight committee, it felt right to just formally appoint all the people who have rolled over from the Measure I committee to the joint Measure IMP committee here. So ultimately, there are up to 7 people that can be on this committee, if not a few more. But the members of this committee have to qualify under certain different descriptors. So as of right now, this is the formalized roles that each of those members are currently playing. So the goal for today would be to ask for a motion to approve the appointment of these current 5 members to the Bond Oversight Committee. Yes, sorry.
So I know sometimes the affiliations can be challenging finding representation. Did we find representation? Are all like, do you need to fill every affiliation, or is it just, you want to kind of have that diversity?
Essentially, you do need to fill the affiliations. There's basically 5 specific affiliations, and then there's 2 at large who could be any member of the community. So as you can see, currently we are occupying both at large, which means there's a few specific designations that we are missing. Again, if you know anyone who is a member of a local business organization or a senior citizens organization, specifically AARP, which is the largest senior citizens organization, please send them my way if they're interested in hearing more about our bond program.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the members who have served and are continuing to serve on the Oversight Committee. I don't know if they're listening, but I do know a lot of these individuals from different contexts, and really appreciate community members getting involved and helping. Helping fulfill the terms of what the voters approved of, that we have an independent oversight committee. Thank you.
If there is no other discussion, may I have a motion to appoint the following people on the committee: Tim H. Ryan L., Serena S., Adele D., and Matthew D.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays or abstentions, they are approved. Thank you if you're watching. Do I need to say their full names? All right, item number 15, the moment you've been waiting for, resolution number 2025/26-5, Measure I, Series A refunding.
Good evening again, trustees. It's split into two different items on here for legal purposes, but really I will talk about them as just one. We have an opportunity to refinance the Measure I Series A and B funds, but just think of it as we have the opportunity to refinance Measure I once more and further save our taxpayers even more money. So if you'll remember, was it about a year ago? Maybe, wow, only 6 months ago, we refinanced Measure I, and at that point that had saved our taxpayers approximately $750,000 over the life of the payments of the bond. We have another opportunity to go onto the market and refinance again. Currently, rates are relatively favorable, but still volatile. The long story short is that these bonds can be sold in August of next year. But if you decide to take the rates that are currently out there, we can take them while paying a little bit of a fee. So that kind of eats into ultimately the percentage that we are currently getting. Now, as of right now, it looks like we could be somewhere in the range of $500,000 to $700,000 again of savings, but ultimately that could change. It could go up, it could go down, and this is the final time that we will be able to refinance these bonds. So time is on our side, but we're just trying to keep the window open for as long as possible. These two items here give us the authorization to go into the market and start exploring whether or not it makes the most sense for us to do it now or to do it later. Ultimately, our goal is to save our taxpayers as much money as possible. If it makes most sense to go into the market now and save roughly $500,000 to $700,000 because we don't think it's going to get any better in the near future, we will do that. If it makes sense to wait a little bit longer in the hopes of finding better savings for our taxpayers, we will do that. But this just gives us the authorization to have all those options at play.
And was open for discussion.
Just a comment, just wanted to say thank you for the responsibility and finding these ways to save our taxpayers money. I'm sure that everybody appreciates that work. So thank you.
Of course.
Just to clarify, if we were to approve this item, what we would be doing is saying you can go out and refinance, but you said you can't refinance until August.
So ultimately, it just means we can't actually sell the bonds until August. We can take the rate right now and quote unquote sell it, but it wouldn't actually be physically sold until August. Does that make sense? So we would sell it essentially and get put into escrow, and then escrow charges a fee to hold the money until it can actually be done in August.
So there how much risk is there in that process? Would there be a chance of anything happening in August that would all of a sudden make us
So
lose all our money?
that is what we would look into right after this authorization. Does it make sense for us to wait until August? Do we think
Got it.
rates will get more favorable then? Or should we do it now? And even with us doing it now, does it make more sense to just take those small incremental costs of holding it in escrow? Because it essentially comes down to the old is a bird in the hand worth two in the bush kind of thing. But that's a decision we'll make, and we'll talk with our bond advisors, Keegan, and also the rest of the bond underwriting team to see whether or not that makes the most sense.
Okay, so we're not approving.
You're not approving, yes, you're just approving us to go and explore and ultimately, if it makes sense, we'll come back to you with another resolution of we
Mhm.
would like to go and actually buy these bonds right now at this specific rate.
Got it. Thank you.
And the specifics for this opportunity is because interest rate environment is going down, like the Fed just cut the interest rate by a quarter point. So is that what the impetus is?
Exactly.
Okay.
Our bond advisors came to us saying there's an opportunity for you to potentially refinance one more time right now. Even with the additional cost, you would still save some money. So it's not a bad idea. But again, all we're trying to do is get ahead of the 8 ball here.
Mhm. Great.
Please do.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-26-5, Measure I, Series A refunding.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays and abstentions, item 15 is approved. Item 16, are you going to present again?
There's nothing to add unless you have any further questions.
So item 16 is now open for discussion if it's necessary. Take it.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-26-5, Measure I, Series A or Series B refunding.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays and abstentions, item 16 is also approved. Now, item 17, my name is there. Am I saying you're doing something? It's just your name, right?
No, well, no, so annual reorganization.
Should I
So the
read it?
president gets to pass the torch, but I'm gonna pause you there. I'm not gonna let you pass it yet. The board's not gonna let you pass it yet.
Is that correct?
I want to take a moment just to recognize President Bruno in his
All right,
service
pay attention.
as your kids, you're waiting as his for his service on the Belmont-Redwood Shores School District School Board. You guys know that the president gets to have coffee with me a couple times a month, and for Jackie, it's at 7 a.m. Before our days really get started. And I want to say that even though it's early, I thoroughly enjoy those conversations with Jackie. All of the time we talk about school board work, but there's always elements of what else is going on in life. As an administrator at Nueva, we have a connection. We can talk about other stuff that's related to both of our work and learn from each other. So one of the things I value most about Jackie is that thought partnership. And he asks some tough questions. And it's those tough questions, I think, that really help you move along and go deeper in your work and get better in what you do. So I thank you for asking those tough questions in a thoughtful and loving way. And I truly mean that. So the other thing that I think is amazing, awesome about Jackie is he is truly about being a human being. In everything that he does, everything that I've seen, the way he opens public comment and saying, yes, I might have to cut you off, but I still love you anyway, right? How he does his best to make sure that he's valuing and recognizing all of the different things that our community finds valuable and important. And then all of his questions, I think, each time come back to what it means to be a human, whether that's as a teacher or as an administrator or as a student. The number of times he says, "But how are you?" And I think that's really important, and I appreciate that. So I just want to say thank you for your service. As Jim Howard would say, we're honored to present you with your trophy. the glass recognition, heavy to you, and thanks of all of your service. And I know some of your trustees would like to also come. So
Thank you.
Jackie, you have been an amazing president. It's really been a privilege to serve with you and Trustee Koss over the last 3 years, and then with Trustee Dang and Trustee Tang over the past year. And I'd really like to recognize you of how you've embodied each of your roles so well. When you were vice president and I was president, I thought you were an amazing vice president. For further in the future, not now, not tonight, I would love to be your vice president someday in the future, just to try to repay that support that you gave me when you were the vice president and I was the president. But anyway, but also, again, as Superintendent DeGuara said, as president, that you give your heart to the meeting and the public. You're so able skillfully to indicate to us which one of us is, allowed to speak next, and you're content to let the discussion go and have your opinion come in at the end. And so, yeah, you're an amazing person, an amazing school board member, and I try to make jokes occasionally. So anyway, I congratulations on ending your presidency, and then I appreciate that you'll be down at this end of the table, and then you can be more of the peanut gallery with me. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Jackie. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, but you have made my first year on the board so amazing and wonderful and lighthearted. I know we talk about a lot of really heavy things in this board meeting, or in all of our board meetings. So just knowing that you're there and that you care and that you approach everything, as Dan said, with great love as a human being is truly appreciated. And I really have enjoyed this first year on the board with you. And thank you for welcoming us and taking us to go golfing. It was wonderful.
See, this is why I like to go first, because now the things that I wanted to say have already been said. And all I can do is say, I agree with my other trustees, but I do feel like, yes, I do feel like this was a very good first year having you as president. I felt very welcomed. I thought you did a great job of kind of like the bonding piece. And also, I feel very comfortable just rolling my window down and shouting out "Hey, President Bruno!" Like when I'm at Nesbitt and you're at Nesbitt.
Yeah.
So,
It does happen.
anyway, I thank you for your service and appreciate all of the work that you put into being president this year. Thank you.
You.
So one of the things that I love most about President Bruno is the empathy and how he keeps every student first and foremost. And your perspective always gets me to rethink mine or supplement it, and your advocacy. I think it's been great to have you as a thought partner, and more importantly, it's been great to have you as a friend, a colleague, and a fellow trustee. And so I just want to thank you for that leadership. Everyone has a different leadership style, and luckily I have two very distinct and successful leaders to kind of model my own style going on. And honestly, I didn't think, I think you set a real precedent when you were clerk, and how you led that role. So I didn't think you could do better than being a clerk in terms of really embracing that role, but you really embraced the presidency.
Appreciate it.
Okay. It's a joke. It's a really pivotal role, and yeah.
Do I need to give a speech? Let's give a speech. I'm not gonna give a you all are awesome. It has been a pleasure. I have learned a lot from all of you. I have appreciated you accepting whatever questions or challenges I may have and going along with my perhaps overly lightheartedness. And yeah, it's been a blast. I'm so looking forward to sitting next to the Reeseathon. And Kirsten, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a party. Yeah, you may have lost me for a year of my attention. And then, yeah, and we'll see what else is happening on that side of the room. We'll talk sometimes. I will actually genuinely miss our morning coffees. And we can still have those every now and then. Am I supposed to read this recommendation?
So I guess we can get back to agenda item 17, yeah?
Alright.
Yes, you can.
It's all of you here.
You can read the recommendation.
All right. It is recommended that per board bylaw 9100 and the tradition of rotating offices so that each board member has the opportunity to serve in each position, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees elect David Koss as president, Ann Dang as vice president, and Shelley Tang as the inimitable clerk position, with the new officers taking office immediately. Immediately. 100 signatures waiting for you. Yes, Trustee Northrup.
I nominate David Koss as president.
You sure?
Yes.
Oh, do we do?
Thank you, Trustee Northrup.
Each position individually.
Okay, then I
It's probably
second.
best practice to do each
Sure.
position individually.
Each position individually. So
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays and abstentions. Congratulations. Oh, did you? President Goss. Is there a nomination for vice president?
We should do a roll call vote. It's a roll call vote per policy, I believe. So, Ms. Ellinger, would you mind calling a roll call vote, please?
Not at all. Trustee Northrup,
Aye.
trustee Tang,
Aye.
trustee Dang,
Aye.
trustee Koss.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye for himself.
Bruno.
Aye.
I'm in the vote column.
All,
Go ahead.
all ayes, no nays,
Correct.
passed.
So
Next.
it does say immediately. I'm just saying.
We did talk if you want to continue.
Either way.
Yeah. You can.
I'm going to continue. It's okay. Is there a nomination for vice president?
I would like to nominate the esteemed Ann Dang for vice president.
Second. I haven't seconded in so long.
Oh, sorry.
It's been seconded.
Okay.
Presidents don't second.
I'll do the roll call vote again. Trustee Northrup,
Aye.
trustee Tang,
Aye.
trustee Dang,
Aye.
trustee Bruno,
Uh,
trustee Koss.
Aye.
President Goss.
All right, we're gonna talk about this
Motion
next.
passed.
Guys, focus.
When's the performance review?
It's so ridiculous. Is there a nomination for clerk?
I nominate Shelley Tang for clerk.
Second.
All right, we'll do the roll call vote one more time. Trustee Northrup.
Aye.
Trustee Tang.
Aye.
Clerk Tang. Trustee Dang.
Aye.
President Trustee
Aye.
Koss and Trustee Bruno.
Aye.
All right, motion passed.
And on that note, item 17 is approved.
Yep.
Is it okay if I continue for one more minute? Or-
Yeah.
Thank
We-
you, President
So
Goss.
we do have a tradition just for expedience of finishing out the
Yeah.
meeting if it's so, yeah.
Thank you for your grace. Item 18, we would appoint superintendent as secretary ex officio to the board.
I would like to move to appoint the secretary as our or no, the superintendent as our secretary. Did I say that right?
Second.
All as well.
No. You can.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays or abstentions, you continue to be Secretary ex officio. Congratulations. Would you like
Thank
to
you.
give a speech?
Thank you.
All right. Item 19, board representative and liaisons.
Great. Board, I'll go ahead and take this one. There is two versions of the same document. If you, Ms. Ellinger, if you wouldn't mind bringing up handout on the supporting documents. There's a couple last minute shifts and adjustments. This, I believe, is the last best draft of board representatives and liaisons that we've come up with. I recommend that the board have discussion, make any adjustments, and then move for approval of the 26 board representation and liaisons.
This is an item for discussion. If you have any questions, comments, concerns.
So for like item number 10, curriculum adoption, how many ideally trustee representations would you like for that?
We have it as one person, but it can be two if there's more interest.
If everybody, I would love to also serve on that, but I want to be cognizant of other people's interests. So, okay. Thank you.
Can add that.
Except the ability if you actually voted on, no, right? It was a discussion thing.
Do we have this as discussion or? No, then my apologies. I asked for action. It doesn't, it just needs to be a discussion.
Any other discussion?
So can we add trust or President Cost to?
We will, this is a PDF version. We'll have to.
Got it. So if we were to move to approve this, it would be with President Cost as.
Correct, correct. We'll make that adjustment.
I move to approve this. Oh, we don't have to approve it.
Yeah.
We don't have it as an action. We just have it as discussion, so it's fine.
Awesome. Any further discussion? All right, we're gonna move to
Okay.
item 20, board meeting schedule adoption, which is an action item.
Before you is our regular board meeting schedule, which follows the same cadence. There are a few dates that are asterisks that indicate that the meeting is scheduled on a different Thursday, the second Thursday. That's strictly because there's a few items because they're, for example, the first interim report or second interim report has to be approved by March 15th. The third Thursday would be too late and would require an additional meeting. So we make an adjustment in those type of cases. Each one of those is asterisks. In a couple of cases, like the February, it coincides with break. So those are the reasons those are adjusted. Recommend approval. The Board of Trustees approve the BRSSD board meeting schedule for the 2026 year as presented.
Can I just ask? So I know this year there was a little tricky with some of the back to school nights.
Mhm.
Was that reviewed or is that kind of, do we want to adjust as needed?
We will adjust as needed. We are doing our best
Yeah, of
to
course.
make sure we get the information in principal's hands. Honestly, sometimes there's little conflicts that come up, but we
Yeah.
will do our best to adjust that.
Perfect.
No further discussion?
All right, I move to approve the 2026 board meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing as there are no nays or abstentions, the board meeting schedule is approved.
Future board meetings, item 21, we're showing 3 meetings, our January meetings. January 8th and 21 are special board meetings designed to collect feedback and input regarding middle school. January 15th, primary items is a school spotlight will be Cipriani. We'll work to update the board on strategic plan. There will be CSBA November board policy first reads, as well as a recommendation on management and confidential salary schedules as regular agenda items.
All right. We made it. We are not reconvening the close. I call this meeting closed at 8:39 p.m. There it is.
I think we're clapping for you as president.
Hey,
Not that I mean it.
First interview, it's about time.